loves, welcome back to a new video. So welcome to my July wrap up. I hope you guys are okay. Hope the month of July was really good for you. How many books did you manage to read in July? I had a very interesting month, to say the least, and I'm excited to go into it, but we've got a lot of backstory. So if you guys hadn't seen, I have been in a major book slump, or in my eyes I see it as a major book slump. Some people might not, because it hasn't really been like, I would say I've been in this book slump for kind of a month, like in and out of the book slump for the past like month or two. But I know for a lot of people they've been in slumps for like 2 months, 3 months, 4 months without reading anything. And this month I managed to read something, but it has been a journey, to say the least. I'm just happy that we're at the end of the month. We're now at the start of a brand new month. I have the excitement. My reading slump was not really me like not reading any books. It was more like I didn't have a love to read a book, which for me, that feels like the end of the world, because it's like, what? I don't want to read a book. Reading books is not my life, it's not my enjoyment. But it was just like in the reading slump. When you're in the reading slump, that is how you feel. And once you're out of it, you're like, I was just so dramatic. But this video we'll be talking a little bit about that, plus obviously all the books that I read in July that I managed to read. If you guys are in a book slump or have been in a book slump, how did you guys feel? I actually have a vlog coming out soon, so you guys will get to see the process of me trying to get out of my book slump and if I succeed in doing that. But you'd be safe to say that I am coming out of my book slump. I am nearly there and I'm excited for the month of August. That being said, I've decided not to do an August TBR video just because I'm keeping the same TBR from July. The past like 3 months, I would say the TBR's kind of been the same. I've had books that I brought in, books that I've taken out, but I haven't been able to actually complete a full TBR probably since April or maybe even March. I haven't been able to complete an actual TBR that I've set because I've been like in and out of a book slump. But this month I've decided to just keep the same TBR. But if you guys want to see my TBR, it is literally this beautiful stack here. But I did manage to finish 1 book from my TBR, but obviously, as I've said, no August TBR video will be coming out, as I will have the same TBR from last month. So if you guys want to see more depth what books I picked, go and watch my June TBR video, and that's where you guys will see. And yeah, I'm really excited to talk about the books I read in July, so let's get to it. So in the month of July, I actually read 7 books, but I wouldn't really count 3 of the books. 4 of the books I would say I've actually read. So if I'm me personally, in terms of what I've actually read, I've read 7 books. In terms of actual reality, I actually feel like I've only read 4 books, and those are the 4 we have there. So first I want to talk about the first 3 books. So if you guys didn't know, at the start of the month I was super excited, but I read a book in July that was just so good, it threw me off for the rest of the month. Watch TV instead of that. Like, I can't multitask either, so if I'm watching TV a lot, I can't focus and read books, because it's like that time's getting taken up by watching TV rather than reading. And also I didn't have the excitement of reading. Like, I didn't take my Kindle everywhere with me, which was one sign, because I take my Kindle everywhere, literally everywhere. And 2, I just didn't want to come home and read. Like, I would be out and I would actually rather stay out than be like, oh, I want to come home and read, which is very odd, especially because I'm a homebody. So even if I was at home, I would be doing everything I can except from reading. And that's when I knew, like, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in a book slump. From the 21st of July, so the last like week and a half of July, I decided that I was sick of being in my book slump. I wanted to read again, but I just didn't know how to do it. So I've created a video where I go over like tips and tricks and try and put them into practice to see if they work. So look out for that video. But obviously along the way, we read these 3 books, which was part of the video. But this is the Deception Trilogy by Rena Kent, I believe. I don't actually have them in physical because I only read them on the Kindle, as you guys will see in the book slump video. But I decided to give this series a 2 stars. You guys can probably guess, like, it wasn't enjoyable at all. Like, I only read it because I was kind of enjoying the first book, and I didn't realise it was part of the series until I finished the book, and then I had to finish it because like that book ended on a cliffhanger. But there were so many times I wanted to DNF this series, but I just pushed through. I wouldn't say it's like the worst series I've ever read, that's why I didn't DNF it, but I just didn't enjoy it. I just read it for the sake of reading. I don't know if anyone can relate to that, but sometimes you just read books that you have like no interest in, but you don't want to DNF it either, so you force yourself to read it. And this one's basically about this woman who basically gets like forced to marry this guy and pretend to be his dead wife, and apparently his dead wife and her look exactly the same. And alongside that, like, there's so many stuff that happens, like, it's not as what it seems, and that's the bit that I kind of enjoyed, because I was like, oh, why does he want her to resemble Dad? Because no one knows that his wife's dead actually, and he wants her to take over. Some of the things that were going through my head was, 1, why did she look like his ex-wife or his dead wife? 2, why did he want her specifically? Because he really wanted her, like there were certain reasons behind it, and obviously that was the only thing that made me want to read the book in the series. So I carried on reading it, and I just ended up giving it a 2 stars. At first I was thinking 3 stars, but then I was like, nah, I don't think it's 3 stars. Maybe the second book was closer to a 3 stars, but I definitely think overall I gave the series 2 stars, but it will be on the screen somewhere. Now we're going to talk about the other books. So let's go back to the start of the month. So obviously I was excited to read all my books in July, and first off I started to read my arc. I was saying, if you watched the back that video, I was saying that I was going to gradually read this arc because I was so excited. I wanted to take my time. But girls, best believe, if you guys see my weekend vlog, I started reading the book and I got so addicted to it. I literally carried on reading that book even after the weekend, and I had finished it on the Tuesday after that weekend. And since reading that book, it has put me in the major book slump, and I hate it but love it at the same time. That is no other than Fall With Me by Becca Mack. This book, guys, this book, the girl is so happy. So I received this book as an ARC. I actually have my ARC copy on my bookshelves at the top, but this is the actual like published copy. It is now in store, so go and collect yours if you haven't. And this series just owns my heart. I can't think about anything else, and still I just can't stop thinking about Jackson and Lennon. Like these two, I'm obsessed with them. Like these are my babies. You guys don't know, Planes for Keeps series is by Becca Mack. It's a series about a group of friends and their relationships. The main male protagonists are all part of their NHL, so they all play hockey, and all their like girlfriends and stuff like that, and how they fall in love. And Jackson has always been like one of my personal favourites from the other books, and when we found out he was going to have his own book, I knew I was going to love it. After reading Unravel Me as well, Adam and Rosie just stole my heart, so I just knew Jackson's book was just going to be top tier, and this book did not disappoint. Like I read this within 4 days, if even that, and this is a 500-page book. This book was just amazing, from the found family aspects to the enemies slash roommates to friends to lovers trope, plus like the heart-wrenching depth, emotional depth that you get from these characters. Jackson's definitely a guy that he thinks he's easily replaceable. Like he has a group of friends, as we know, and he thinks that he's replaceable because they've known each other from like college and that, and he's kind of just like joined because of like the hockey team. He's like moved there, and he's always felt like he's replaceable and that he wasn't enough. And then he meets Lennon. He's just been dumped by her fiance, and they both meet first on holiday. And let's just say Becca Mack's books are spicy from the beginning. Just seeing the development of these characters, and these two together were just pure fireworks. Also the found family aspect, seeing all the other characters together as well. I was just like in my element, and you guys can guess why I was in a book slump, because this book was just amazing. In terms of ratings, I decided to give this book a 6 stars. Like I had to. If you guys want to see like me rating like my 5-star, 6-star reads, I actually have a tier ranking video, and this was actually included. For this book, I will love it until the day I die. I need to do rereads ASAP. Like, I'm not only going to be rereading this, I've actually decided I'm going to reread the whole series once I finish my August TBR. And I'm just so freaking excited because this world is my world. Like, I wish I was part of this world, this friendship group, because these people seem like the best people to hang out with. And they're not just friends, they are family. And it's definitely like, what I love about Becca's books, it shows that there's people that you meet in your life that are not necessarily family or blood related, but they can become your family, and not always, family is not always blood related. Family is, you can choose your family basically. Like, don't people say, oh, you can't choose your family, they're just family and parents, stuff like that. I believe that, yes, that's true, but you can also choose who you want to be around with, actually like the outside people. And sometimes there's friends that you have that are family, and I could definitely relate to that, and I definitely feel like the same way. And this book just like gave me all the feels. I was crying, I was giggling, I was blushing, I was crying, and it's just a beautiful book. Becca, the way she writes, these characters she brings to life is just top tier. So if you haven't read Fall With Me, definitely recommend it. Definitely recommend the Planes for Keeps series. I always talk about it, and yeah, I just love this series with my whole heart. So I'm so happy that I read it. Obviously, since I read that, I couldn't read any other books, and I actually did start another book called The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston, but I just couldn't get into it. One, because I was reading it bits and pieces. Like I'll do it inside, like if I was having a break or if I was eating, that's when I would read it. So I wasn't really fully concentrating on it, and I couldn't really get into the storyline. So I started this, I got about 115 pages in, I just put it down, and then I just had 2 weeks of like no reading at all. But I finally managed to get back into this book, and this book was so good. Guys, this book was so good. Should I tell you one thing that's helped me so much is audiobooks. C and Sarah mentioned that audiobooks helped her get into like books that she's not necessarily into yet. This is just like, I love audiobooks now. I'm actually currently listening to the audiobook of The Dixon Rule by Elle Kennedy. And let's just say this, audiobooks just bring the story to life even more than just reading it by myself. I don't really imagine certain characters in the way they speak, but audiobooks just help to visualize the story so much, and I was just in awe the whole time. This book was so sad but so romantic. It's about grief but also healing and family and relationships and growing, and that sometimes you don't know what you're going to want to do. Like, your career's always going to change. So we meet this main character called Clementine. She moves into her late aunt's apartment. Her aunt was someone that she loved so much, held dear to her heart, but she recently passed away, and Clementine's in the middle of grieving. So she moves into her aunt's apartment, not really expecting much. Actually, life's not what it seems. So she enters his apartment to find a guy there, and she's like, huh? Why is he here? But he says to her, oh, I'm renting out your aunt's apartment. She allowed me to do that. And Clementine's like, huh? What do you mean? My aunt's dead. But she doesn't say that to him. She's like, what do you mean? And he was like, your aunt's let me rent it. And she looked at the time, she looked at the clock, and she realised she was 7 years in the past. So she meets this guy, and Ewan, like, he reminds me so much. I don't know why. He gives me the same vibe of Archer from Archer's Voice. I don't know if anyone else kind of thinks that, but let me know in the comments how you guys think. But I think they're on the same wavelength, those two characters. Ewan, he's just such a breath of fresh air, and I just loved the relationships between Clementine and Ewan, even from the moment that they met in the apartment to like later down the line. I just loved this story. This book, it definitely focuses on the grief, and I will say this, don't go into the book thinking it's a fluffy duffy romance. That's all it is, with a little bit of grief. It is the main kind of drive for the story, but I actually loved that of it. And she reminded me as well, this writing definitely reminded me of Emily Henry and the feels that I get from reading her books. I was obsessed with the writing style, and even more so when I listened to the audiobook. Just the way this author brings these characters to life, and also talks about and discusses certain issues like death and grief and romance and just life in general, was really wholesome, and I could really resonate and relate to the characters, and I just loved this book. At the beginning, as I've said, because it took me a while to get into it, I wasn't really connected to the characters, but I would definitely say the second half of this book really sold this book to me, basically. I decided to give it a 4.5 because it was so good. I understand the hype now. I obviously mainly got this book because I saw a lot of people talking about it, and I started it thinking, I don't really understand the hype, but I definitely do now. And this book was just amazing. I don't even know what else to say. I just love the way this author talks about grief. At the end of the day, that person will always live on, even in the things that they have, the memories you have with them. The thing that I loved about this book is the way the author talks about all the things that person's gonna miss. Now they're gone, they're not going to see you do, for example, graduate or see you get married. And that's like the saddest bit about grief. Like, I could definitely feel the sadness from the character of Clementine, and I just loved her character. I loved everything she stood for, and this story was just so beautiful. And yeah, I just definitely enjoyed it, and I'm definitely excited to read more from Ashley Poston, and I definitely recommend if you haven't read it. Next up in July, I read Take a Hike by Mimi Grace. So this was actually the first book that I read to get me out of my book slump, to kind of see. So obviously this book is part of a little series, and it is such a cute black romance. Like, look at the cover. I'm not gonna lie, I decided to read this book purely for the cover because it just excited me reading it, and this story was just so cute. It was such a fluffy, cozy little romance, and it was the perfect length. And I just found Raven as such a breath of fresh air. She was just so light. Like, she was someone that definitely I could relate to. She doesn't give up. Like, when she wants something, she'll go for it. Especially if other people don't believe that she will succeed, she'll push herself to do it. And I just loved that about the character. It was easy to read. I loved the romance. It was so fluffy, duffy, cozy. Such a perfect summer read, and I can't wait to read more from Mimi Grace and continue the series. So I decided to give this book a 3.5. It was so good, so cozy. As I said, I gave it a 3.5 just because I didn't get the 5-star feeling from this book, and it was fun, but there wasn't much to it on an emotional depth level, and that's why I gave it a 3.5. But it's not a bad book at all. Like, I actually loved it. It was just a perfect summer cozy read. So if you're looking for the perfect summer read, I definitely recommend reading Take the Hype by Mimi Grace, because it's just so cozy, so easy to read, fast paced, and it's perfect for if you're trying to get out of a reading slump. So I definitely recommend, and I can't wait to read more of her books. Last but not least, we have The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, and this book, guys, this book again, it took me by a storm. This book was amazing. Again, you guys will see more in my book slump video, but this book, safe to say, your girl is falling more and more in love with thriller and crime. Last year is where I discovered fantasy, and this year I'm definitely discovering thriller a little bit more, and the Natural series has got a lot to thank. This book, I was just going into this book with like zero expectation, was just looking for a genre change to get me out of my book slump, and this book took me by a storm. So in this book we meet Cassie. Cassie again is working day by day. She's a teenager. I think she's like 16 or 17, and she basically gets a note from this like mysterious boy to this agent, and basically upon speaking to the agent, he says, we really want you to join our special unit thing for teenagers who have similar abilities like you, who are also naturals. And she's like, what on earth is a natural? And he's like, these are people who have natural ability. So with Cassie, she has a natural ability of being able to read people, and from that being able to read if they can be a murderer, what things they like, what they don't like. And based on that, he's like, we really need you, because what we do basically solve cold cases, and these group of teenagers are very special in helping the FBI solve these mysteries. So he's like, come on, we really need you. So she decides to do it because she's like, what else do I have to live for? And upon doing that, she moves into this house with other teenagers that she meets that also have special abilities. And let's just say this book was great. Like, I absolutely adored this book. All I knew from this book is that it was a Criminal Minds YA series, so it was like Criminal Minds but with teenagers, and I was already set just hearing that. I love Criminal Minds, anything to do with like crime, mystery stuff. Like, I used to be a fanatic for all that stuff, and this book just brought out in me. Actually currently watching Law and Order, so that kind of what drove me as well to read this book. But reading this book was so good. Like, I was not prepared for what happens in this book. I did not see it coming, safe to say, but I just didn't. And yeah, if you haven't read the Natural series, definitely recommend. I can't wait to read the next book. This is the first book in a series, and yeah, the book was just amazing. I decided to give it a 4.25 because it was just so good. Definitely brought me out of my book slump. One, because I changed the genre. Two, it was so easy to read. Like, these pages are so fast paced. Like, the words on the page is not a lot compared to some other books, which I loved. It helped me to get through it. But this book was just so good, and yeah, I adored it, and I definitely can't wait to read more from Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I know she's the author of the Inheritance games, which I hear so much about, and I wasn't actually interested in reading it, but since reading this book, and I love the writing style of this author, I definitely want to give that series a try. So if you guys have read the Inheritance series, the Inheritance games, please let me know down below what you guys thought about it, because I'm definitely intrigued to see if you guys enjoyed it and if you guys enjoyed the Natural series. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to finish the rest of the series. But those are all the books that I read in the month of July. I obviously didn't have an eventful month. Obviously, this is like the standard to how much I usually read every month, but for me it didn't feel the same. But the rest of the books I've read I definitely did enjoy despite my reading slump. But definitely it felt like a very weird month for me. It felt like actually longer than it was. It felt like the month was about 2 months long, even though it's only a month long. But I am really excited to see where the rest of the year is going to take me in terms of reading. Hopefully this is the last reading slump I'm going to get into for the foreseeable future. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you give it a like and subscribe, the usual YouTube stuff, and follow my socials down below. But I hope you guys are all okay. How's your summer doing? Are you guys excited for the month of August? It obviously is August now by the time this video comes out. So yeah, I hope you guys have a good August. I'm excited for August because it's actually the proper whole month that I have off work. I have some fun reading vlogs, normal vlogs, and just book content in general that I'm excited to film and post for you guys. And like, we're nearly at 1,000, so hopefully by the end of this summer I'll be at 1,000, and I'm planning to do a little giveaway. So I am really excited for the next coming month. I'm so excited to see all the books I'm going to read in August. So hopefully by the time I do my August wrap up, you guys will see a lot of new books that I managed to read, especially from the coming months TBR. So I hope you guys are all okay, you're staying safe, stay blessed, and as I always say, I love you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye loves!
Creo que estoy enamorada porque cuando veo cosas muy bonitas pienso en ti como un cabecito en la